Want to learn how to get into real estate, fix and flip? Tune in to this episode. Welcome to the Newbie Real Estate Investors Podcast. Today, we're going to go over how to do a fix and flip. Let's say I'm a home investor and I'm going to fix and flip it, right? So I'll talk about the steps that go into a fix and flip. Let's say I do purchase it either from, let's say, a wholesaler, such as like Vlada, or a realtor. You purchase it either off market or on market. Then once I acquire that property, but before I even acquire that property, what do I have to do? I have to do some due diligence, right? So the due diligence, basically what I always recommend you do are three things. Do an oil tank sweep. Number one, get a home inspection for sure, and then do a sewer scope. So I've had a couple of instances where we didn't do a sewer scope and the buyers asked us to replace the entire sewer line. And all it needed was a simple like water jetting to clear the lines, okay? So that's a big cost if you've got to replace your whole sewer line, right? That's a good like $20,000 to $30,000 thing. You want to avoid that kind of stuff. And then number two, once you do those due diligence, you get to find out what kind of things are wrong with the property. And then as soon as you know what is wrong with the property, then you got to run your numbers. Once you run your numbers, you're going to, even before you get to run your numbers, you're going to invite some contractors to come in, give you those numbers, right? Unless you're a little more experienced and you know and you understand construction, then you don't need to necessarily invite those contractors to come. And I would also highly recommend you pay a contractor to come in and give you a quote, because the guys that are coming in to give you free quotes, they're not that anxious to give you a free quote unless they have not done these type of projects. So those guys that are a little more desperate, they'll want to come in and give you a quote, and then a lot of times they're gonna lowball it. This is when you get in trouble. You'd want somebody to come in, give you a more thorough quote. And why would they give you a more thorough quote? Because you're paying for the quote, okay? So you want somebody like that. And then once you do that, once you have your numbers together, how are you gonna fund the project, right? So there's a couple of different ways to fund the project. The first way is to fund it yourself through your savings, or if you have some kind of like self-directed IRA. Actually, self-directed is gonna come from someone else, like a private lender or something like that. Then you're gonna get either a hard money loan, or let's say a DSCR loan, or even let's say a 203K loan if you intend to actually live in the property. Once you do that, and then your contractor comes back to you and they give you sort of a scope of work, or you help create that scope of work, now you know what kind of work needs to be done. Once you go through all these phases, then you're actually gonna purchase the property, right? And that's the beginning. That's where the fun actually starts. So once you purchase the property, then you have to figure out, hey, am I gonna get permits to do all this work, or is it something where I can do it without work? Even before you actually purchase, you're gonna wanna talk to an architect. If you're making a lot of structural changes and things like that. If you're not making a lot of changes and it's all more cosmetic, then you don't really need an architect. But once you do that, you're gonna wanna line up your contractor, right? Because the contractor is the person that's gonna make or break your deal. Once you get a good contractor in there, you're gonna have them execute the job, and then you're gonna figure out a draw schedule for that contractor. So always make sure you're going to pay them on big milestones. Let's say after an inspection passes, then you pay them. Or after, let's say, your cabinets are installed, or after all the drywall is put up. So always go with the big milestones, and then be aware of when those milestones are going to occur so that it's fair to you and fair to them. Once you set up those payment terms and things like that, you want to find out if they're going to offer any type of warranty. If something goes wrong, are they going to come back and fix it, depending on what's wrong, right? Once you complete that project, you're going to clean up the project. Then the next step is to start talking to a realtor, or if you are a realtor, you can go ahead and start the listing process. What I usually like to do is I usually hire a staging crew. So they'll come in, they'll put furniture, different types of tables and things like that,
Couches
pictures, couches, yeah.
To make it look like it's livable.
Yep. Exactly. Because buyers have very low vision, right? So they can't picture the space. If you give them the vision, it'll make it a lot easier to sell. I did this a lot, especially during COVID, where we just purchased the house. We barely fixed it up. It was not that great renovation wise, but we did stage it, and the staging made the house way better looking than it is. And we were able to sell it for top dollar even at that point. Once you market it with the realtor, all you have to really do is wait for closing and then, sell it. Once you get that wire, make sure you pay off your bills and then on to the next property.